Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, are we recording?
Yeah, but
Oh, no
let's just
pressure.
hang out
We're
and
just
get
hanging
settled
out.
in. The tape is rolling. We don't have to bust right into it. We could chop off the beginning. I just want to
Choppity
hang
chop.
out, get settled in.
So I'm at work, and all day I'm thinking, okay, we're going to record tonight. And I am delving into consciousness. So I'm trying to, I'm like visualizing while I'm at work, delving into this like really in depth conversation with you, and like mentally getting all the bullet points correct and like what I want to say and like getting nervous and I'm going to forget this or that. And then I was like, you know what? It's I'm not here to like tell people like exactly how things are. I'm not here to tell you what reality is. I just want to dare people to think like about different things.
What piques your interest about all of this? Like um why did you want to talk about it?
Uh, you know, it's just it's like the fundamental question that I think everyone asks at a certain point in life is like, why are we here? What are we doing? How did I get here? What
Mhm.
is this?
Yeah.
And yeah, I've just always been fascinated since I was a little kid. So, as I've mentioned to you previous times before, the thing that I really found fascinating when I was a kid was like UFOs and
Yeah.
abduction cases and, like Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and my mother and grandmother who came here from England, they told me all these stories of like supernatural experiences that they had in England and these really old hotels and houses and stuff. So as a kid, like I was like, wow, really? Like that's real? So that kind of like set me off on this journey
Mhm.
to just really question everything. And I was just trying to figure everything out. And so as a kid, I'm, watching every kind of UFO movie or alien movie there is. And books. I was reading a ton of books as a kid. And the more that you research about like abduction cases, the more that I saw the government was involved in this stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, how is the government involved? And then that set me off on a tangent of trying to figure out, oh, what like the CIA is involved, the NSA, and they're like covering up crash UFOs and like alien technology. And why would they be doing that? Oh, they don't want like the population to know about this kind of technology. And then that goes into the banking side of things, and money is controlled, which controls the population on the planet. And so it just kind of all these different tentacles,
Yeah.
like all these different avenues and roads that I could venture down and try to figure out. Anyway, to answer your question, uh, trying to figure out what consciousness is or like why we're here, everything that I just mentioned is like the system on this planet that we live in.
Yeah.
Um, but what's beyond that is
Yeah.
like, what's life? What are we as like human beings? Like, how did we get here?
Uh-huh.
How did, it's like evolution and religion and philosophy
Yeah.
and all these types of things, so that kind of, all those questions kind of set me off on this journey of delving into consciousness. And I recently found uh, a really extraordinary and fascinating guy. His name is Thomas Campbell, and he's a physicist. And he's been, working in kind of like the mainstream science field, if you will. But then in the 70s, he was also his side project was kind of trying to understand the supernatural and consciousness. And yeah, there's a couple of different guys that I've really been delving into. One is Donald Hoffman, which he has a ton of stuff right now on YouTube. He's on a ton of different popular podcasts. Donald Hoffman, Thomas Campbell, and then there's a biologist, and I can't remember his name, but I will later. Anyway, all these guys are basically saying the same thing. So their conclusion is that consciousness creates physical reality, and most of the mainstream science would say that the brain or the physical creates consciousness. So these guys are kind of they're very well-known, well-researched, well-respected guys, but they're coming at it from a very different angle, or they're coming at it not from like the mainstream scientific community type perspective, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's like...
Do you have a hard opinion about any of the information that you're looking into?
Well, yeah, because things start to make sense for me. I think when I'm a kid and I'm researching like these haunted houses and people have these old pictures of like, you know, like a ghost or something that's translucent, and when you know that there is more than just the physical, then it makes sense. Because if everything is consciousness, then like the very fundamental element of life starts with consciousness, which creates physical reality. So we are just here experiencing this physical 3D space-time reality as consciousness. We're just using our bodies to experience the reality around us, and we do that right through our touch and feel and taste and smell, with our five senses. So like the pieces of the puzzle kind of fit together, and and then I go, oh, that makes sense. So just intuitively, I think, researching this stuff, a lot fairly recently, yeah, it does make sense. Yeah, and it's fascinating.
Do these guys that you're looking into say anything about the origin of life, or what their opinion about the origin of life is?
That is a question that, I was listening to Thomas Campbell earlier today, just like an hour ago, and that is something that you just have to assume. Like, consciousness, what he's saying, and these other researchers, is that there's like one universal consciousness, one mind, if you will, and that us as human beings, or whatever, any other conscious being, is just Thomas Campbell calls it an individual unit of consciousness, IUOC. So we are just fragments of like a God mind, or the whole consciousness. So it starts, like I said, fundamentally, the foundation, if you will, is consciousness, and everything else stems from it. How did the consciousness come to be, or God, if you will? I mean, I don't think anyone knows that. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, it's just infinite. So I think it's pretty hard to grasp infinite, like in our literal human minds.
Well, that is because we are finite.
Yeah, that is true.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it is September 13th, 2024, and we're back.
Friday the 13th.
Dare to Think.
Dare to Think.
Podcast. We're talking about some metaphysical stuff. And Matthew's sharing with us some information that he's been looking at. And I have no notes, and I'm just going to listen, and I'm going to ask questions, and we're going to kind of have a meeting of the minds and see what happens.
Yeah, I have about 5 pages here, and they're all blank except for the top half of one. So I didn't get very far in my notes, but I tend to think that just having a casual conversation between the two of us is like a little bit better.
Yeah, I like it. It's funny because, we have recordings that have worked. We have recordings that, we have never used. We don't know what's going to happen with this one. Maybe we'll use it, maybe we won't. We'll find out. So what I can't help but wonder when I listen to people like the people that you're describing is it almost kind of sounds like they have an opinion about how life is. And they say, well, it's, and they describe consciousness. And I'm not saying I agree, disagree, or whatever. I'm just listening to their point of view. But what I have to ask myself, I guess the way that my brain works is like, okay, it almost kind of sounds like they're starting from the middle versus the beginning. So you have this hard opinion, it sounds like, when I listen to some people, like the people you're describing. And I don't know, maybe I just need more information, Matt. Maybe you can help me, maybe you can fill it in. But what do they say anything about the origin of life? Because where did this consciousness come from? If they kind of say, well, consciousness is this, and they describe the nature of it, and then they describe that, we're all consciousness or whatever, help me out if I'm getting it wrong, because I've listened to some people like this, but I'm like, okay, if you can say, well, emphatically this exists and this is how it works, my natural question is, well, where did it come from?
Yeah, I don't.
What is the source? What is the source of the consciousness?
I am not going to do it justice because it is so much information, and these guys are like in their late 70s, maybe early 80s even. So they've been, at this since probably the 60s or 70s.
Yeah, but you can be at something that's the wrong thing for all your life.
That is true. Touche. I'm just saying I'm not going to be able to be like a good representation or representative for their ideas and thoughts.
Okay.
I'm just kind of trying to like regurgitate, what I've been researching.
Mm-hmm. Let's just talk about it from a purely like it's a subject, like history or math or whatever. Let's just discuss it like a subject then. And you can add whoever, you want. You can add these people, you can add other people, or let's just talk about it like it's a person, place, or thing,
Sure. I mean, having delved into the NDEs or OBEs, like out-of-body experience or near-death experience, like all these guys' research, like, aligns with all these people's personal stories that they have.
Yeah.
When they die and they're still aware, they're conscious, they are them.
So both of those don't necessarily mean that they have died.
That is true.
Out of body means you could have experienced.
It could have been like a meditative state.
You could have had some sort of, but you as at least your physical person did not cease to, your body still had its heart rate going, and your faculties were still.
They had vitals.
Yeah. And even if you were near death, that doesn't mean that you died. To come back from the dead, that would have been something else.
There are a lot of these stories where people were like clinically pronounced dead.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you call that? How would you define that?
Well, I mean, they don't get into. I guess it's just semantics, but I mean, yeah, they died and then they came back, or they were resuscitated, or it was like a horrific accident, or they were in the hospital and open heart surgery and something. There was a mishap and then they flatlined.
Yeah. So maybe there's 3 different categories then. There's out-of-body experience, near-death experience, and there's clinically dead but came back from the dead. Would you qualify that as separate from the
No, I mean
out-of-body and near-death?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm just generally saying that a lot of these stories, these personal stories, from just everyday people that have passed on or gone to the other side and come back, really align with everything that these scientists, these physicists, are saying. And it seems like that consciousness does survive outside of the body.
Yeah.
And that it isn't the brain that is creating consciousness.
Yeah.
But it is like one on its own.
So who is saying, just in contrast, who or what school of thought is saying that the brain
Makes consciousness.
yeah, makes or generates consciousness.
I don't.
In contrast to what maybe these guys that you're listening to are
Yeah,
saying.
that's actually a great question. I don't know any, scientists or like mainstream people that I can name off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I think that's a tough question, because it's like in mainstream science, if you are in university or in medical school, like how do they describe it?
Yeah.
If you're going to be an MD, do they say that the brain creates consciousness? I don't even know if they get to that point.
Yeah.
That they get into it.
Yeah.
Or if just mainstream science kind of just shrugs their shoulders and say, we don't really know.
Well, and that's okay. I'm fine with that. I'd rather have them say we don't know than this is how it is.
True.
And, you can't question me because I am Dr. Fauci,
Right.
I'd rather have them. It would be a much more honest scientist for someone to, in my opinion, to say, I don't know.
Yeah, to actually be humble and admit something that they're not
and
sure
I
of.
think that that's more in line with what science is. Science is knowledge.
Right. It's
essentially.
always progressing.
Well, and it's like scientists are wrong all the time.
That is true.
Because they're operating based on the knowledge that they have. First, they have to based on the knowledge that they have, and then they have to be honest about the knowledge that they have.
Right.
When you're talking, Matt, it almost makes me sound like, okay, so you're approaching it from a practical, I guess, I don't know, scholarly kind of approach, but what about from like a philosophical or religious approach? Because when you're talking, it almost sounds like I hear you saying, like, I kind of almost like my brain is categorizing some of what you're saying as, oh, that sounds like atheism, or oh, that sounds like some other kind of religion, when based on the different themes that you're talking about.
Yeah, well, I'm not an expert on religion, but I would say that a lot
Neither
of
am I.
religions have said this. Like the Buddha said, nothing is physical. And I think that's correct, because if everything in our physical reality is not actually physical, everything is just actually a vibrating frequency, and our eyes can only pick up very limited frequency range.
Yeah.
Then nothing really is physical. And if the very fundamental foundation of life is consciousness, then yeah, it really is infinite. Because if you can think about anything in your head. Like, you can visualize anything forever. It trips me out. But to think of something that's infinite.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm kind of going off the topic.
No, we're just talking.
We're just talking.
To me, it's like, we could go down one of a dozen different paths.
Yeah. Well, I think religion has always kind of been trying to explain what happens like after you die.
Or even in the present.
Yeah.
Like when you said like Buddhism says nothing is physical or there is no, whatever. I question that. I'm not saying I Buddhism is altogether, incorrect, or maybe they are correct on some things, but I just have my own view, and I would say, well, does that mean that we're not experiencing physical things? Because I would think that most people are experiencing physical things, that it's not imaginary.
I don't think it's imaginary. I think it's more of like a metaphor for our physical reality. Because Thomas Campbell, he will often say that we are in a virtual reality. It like if you put on a set of VR head goggles.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will hear that and they'll get kind of turned off by that terminology,
Yeah.
thinking like, "Oh, what am I? Just this reality is just like a video game."
Yeah.
No, I think he's just using it as like a metaphor, because obviously, yeah, we're in the physical. You know, if you punch me in the face, it hurts,
Yeah,
and
if you get in a car
could,
accident,
yeah, you know,
you fall off a roof or whatever.
right. I mean,
That's not a simulation.
no. Well, the interesting things
Yeah.
that Thomas talks about is that there is a rule set in this physical reality. And so the one consciousness, or God, if you will, that created this physical reality gave a set of rules that have to happen within this 3D space-time reality. So we have things like friction and gravity and, you know, all your kind of like mainstream science terms like inertia. So these are kind of like rule sets within this reality, and then things evolve, but the rule set is always in place. So it's like, it makes sense to me because there's always this huge argument going on between creationism and evolution. And like, I was like, I don't understand why it can't be both. Like, there is obviously evolution because you can see it where like certain animals will evolve to have certain like self-defense mechanisms, or like certain frogs have bright colors to ward off, you know, predators. But that doesn't mean that like this physical reality wasn't created by a higher power. And they, all these scientists talk about that. So it really does align with a lot of religion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not doing it justice. And you know, I'll throw in like links and stuff if we.
Well, I mean, we're not here to be the big brains. We're just here to have a conversation, and just because, you know, these people are really adept at their, you know, field, that's great. But all we're doing is just kind of giving our point of view. That's the way I look at it. You know,
Yeah,
I'm not here to be an expert. I'm not here to be you know, a scientist. I'm just here to talk and kind of ask questions and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like these are questions that most everyday average people have, or have asked at some time in
But
their
are
life.
they, Matt? Maybe. See, and here's my question: is how many people really do give conscious thought to the things that you are asking?
Well,
I wonder about that. I'm like, well, is everybody really giving conscious thought to these things?
no, they aren't.
And if you do think that they are, well, let's just say not you, but somebody thinks, oh, everybody thinks this. When are they doing that? I don't know. I think maybe there's a portion of society that does. I don't know if it keeps them up at night. I don't know if they think about it regularly. I don't know if they think about it some of the time. I don't know if they're scared to think about it.
There's so much.
It's kind of like death. Look at it like this.
Yeah.
Everybody is going to die.
But how much do you think about
How
it?
many times do people actually contemplate their existence? Because the truth is, you're all going to die. Sorry, everybody, but you are. It's just a matter of when. And you can like go, well, I don't want to talk about it, or I don't want to think about it. That's not going to stop it from happening. It's still going to happen.
That's true.
So it's kind of the same thing. Instead of death, say consciousness, or, you know, life after death, or
Politics,
your
or
existence, or
banking,
whatever.
or
Yeah, well, and
whatever.
what even is worth contemplating while we're here? That's where you get philosophical or religious, I think.
Yeah, that's true. You know, life throws so much stuff at us all the time. that it's hard to ask these kind of philosophical, over the top questions. You know, if you have your 5-year-old running around the house and you have to put down for bed or take them to school, or, you know, your wife wants you to help fold the laundry, there's just a million things to do all the time in your daily life that it doesn't always allow you to be like pondering these
100%.
questions.
And those things need to happen, and those things need to get handled. But I guess it's kind of like there is a benefit, I think, to contemplating your mortality, because that can actually sharpen you, in my opinion, to be like, you know, what am I really spending my time doing?
Well, yeah, it can change your perspective on life. Like maybe
It can enhance your life.
True.
Yeah.
You could be spending your time.
Be like, damn, dude, I've been going to McDonald's every day. What am I doing?
Yeah, or playing video games for 8 hours a day.
Yeah. Any of that. I'm sitting inside, you know, I'm not, is this why I've been put here on earth? Or
That is true. That's a good question, because a lot of people probably feel like worthless, or their life is pointless, or we were talking like,
or they don't have a purpose.
Yeah, I mean that can lead to depression, I would think.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, Matt, and this is where it comes to, say, Darwinistic evolution. There we go. Darwinistic evolution versus, say, creationism.
Yeah, that seems to be like the two.
What value do you have if you've been evolved from, I don't know, whatever Darwinistic evolution says that you've evolved from?
Like some simplistic
What
amoeba.
Why do you have rights? Why do you have? Why should anybody pay any attention to you? Why are you special? Why do people walk around with some sort of understanding or belief that they matter if that is their origin of life?
Yeah, if you think that we're just here because you evolved and everything just kind of happened by chance and billions of years of evolution, I mean, it doesn't feel very special. And I can see why people might get disillusioned and become depressed or not really care about things. But
well, does it align with what we're experiencing every day? You know, it's like people. Here's an example, Matt, real fast. Sorry to interrupt.
no, yeah.
But somebody will say like, "Can you believe so and so did this and this and that? Isn't that effed up? Isn't that effed up?" And they're coming from a presupposed idea that you know exactly what they're talking about. Like there is a standard of what is right and what is just, and don't you think that they should have been given a better shake than whatever so and so did not give them? Like there's this universal understanding of what is right and what is good and what is just. So where did that come from? Where did they get it in their head that they're owed anything?
Well, I think a lot of people do believe in spirituality and have very strong opinions on religion and philosophy, and I think maybe that's where it stems from.
Yeah.
Or just being intuitive and like knowing as a person that there's right and wrong, like having a moral compass.
Okay, so where does Darwinistic evolution give an explanation from where right and wrong come from?
Well, isn't it just like the survival of the fittest?
Right. So what's right? If I'm stronger than you,
Yeah.
that's what's right?
I mean, it's like a very animalistic, like no feelings kind of whoever is the better, bigger species that can survive.
Yeah. And do you think that that is what is right?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think that's what is right? I don't know if I've ever thought about that. No, because I've always felt that there is something more.
Aha.
And that's why I've always been so fascinated as a kid.
Yes.
And like, and you know, now, like all these years later, like I'm sitting here having this conversation with you, and
Yeah.
we take it to the extent of like editing and putting videos out to the world. So that's how much I care about it, because I think it's important.
Yeah.
You know, this kind of stuffing and having these conversations and trying to understand life is more important to me than going to my 9 to 5 and working for like some big company
Yep.
that doesn't really care about me.
But you can still go about. It doesn't matter if you go there or not, or if you went to Golfland, or the beach or whatever. In my opinion, you can still have your principles and live by your principles, and this is where philosophy, religion, etc., spirituality, whatever you want to call it, comes in. Is it doesn't matter the arena,
Yeah.
or the context, or the setting, or whatever where you would go. You can still live out your philosophy, religion, spirituality, beliefs in any arena at any time.
That's true.
And so that's where I think that, in my opinion, Darwinistic evolution falls short of explaining those things.
Yeah, I mean, they just, I went to college. They don't really get into it much.
No. Well, and I also will add that I think that Darwinistic evolution, that's why I call it, is a religion.
Yeah, yeah.
People will be like,
is.
no, it's not, it's science. No, sorry. If it's science, it should be able to be tested, because that's what
Right.
true science is. True science will be able to question those things. If you say, oh no, you can't question Darwinistic evolution, well then now we've become like the Vatican, where you can't
Right.
question the Pope, or you've elevated Darwinistic evolution to a level of unquestioning, it's some sort of exalted
Yeah.
level of it's supreme, and it's transcendent.
Well,
And I would say, hell no, dude. If it's really true, you should be able to test the fuck out of it,
yeah.
and then we'll see if it survives, because then that's truth.
Mainstream science in these days has really become like the high priests of the
100%.
So,
The
just
white robes
Yeah.
have become the priests, the priestly class.
it's just like in the past, like what, 3 or 4 years with the COVA-19.
Even before then.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it was really blatant in your face,
Yep.
because when people were questioning the vax,
Yep.
it was like, oh no, you can't question it. You just have to take it. And then
Yep.
they were told, right, they had a whole slogan that was trust the science.
Yeah, and if not, you're a heretic.
Right.
Yep.
You can't even question anything, or you're just going to be labeled like a kook.
Well, and that is not science.
No, it's not. But
Science is the scientific method. If you have, sorry, but
No, I
the
know.
scientific method is science. If you don't have the scientific method, you do not have science. You only have a word called science, but
and
it's not true science.
this is where the other aspect of it comes into play, because there are people that gain from keeping people closed-minded and in the box and
Yeah.
going along with the agenda of trust the science. So I was kind of talking to you earlier before we were sitting down and talking now, where when I'm talking about consciousness, I'm trying to find like the fundamental answer to like what life is. What
Yeah.
is this all about? And then tying that into what's going on this earthly realm, and this
100%.
physical 3D reality
Yeah.
on this planet,
Yeah.
and that there are very evil people on this planet that want to control and manipulate the masses.
Yeah.
And so that's what all the recordings that we've done previously have been talking about.
Yeah.
When it gets into like politics and, religion and every facet of society is trying to be like manipulative in a
Yeah.
control structure. So I found that interesting to want to like tie that all together.
Yeah.
These are the things that I'm always thinking about all the time. Like, And I wish I could kind of like explain to people in a kind of concise, well-rounded way, but it's so hard because it's so much information.
Well, we do it one episode at a time, Matt.
Yeah.
So you use the word manipulate or manipulation a couple of times. When you use the term manipulation, isn't it often used in a negative connotation? So when somebody says, "Oh, that person is very manipulative,"
It's like they're trying to control you.
but what it implies is that it's an immoral thing,
Yeah.
and that there
yeah.
is a moral standard. So where do these things come from if we all universally understand them? This is where I get to the origin of life. I think that there is here's where I'm coming from, Matt.
Uh-huh.
There is more that is understood when we begin to peel back the layers. There's more that is supportive, in my opinion, that there is a creator who has set laws, who has set standards, who has set right and wrong. And that's why we all seem to universally understand when the laws are being broken.
Yeah. We have a moral compass.
Yeah. So and it lends more support, in my opinion, in my belief, my worldview, that we have been created and the Creator has instilled within us an understanding of consciousness, or a conscience, or a conscious of what is good and what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is evil. And we feel the repercussions when those laws are broken or when we're hurt by the wickedness, by the evil, by the wrong, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we all seem to kind of understand that, and yet people don't want to acknowledge that there is a creator or that God is above them. They want to say, well, they want to have their cake and eat it too.
You know what? It's ego.
Uh-huh.
People have egos, and it's natural to have an ego. Like, we're human beings, but I've really tried to be aware of when I'm coming across with the ego.
Yeah.
Like, I just have to try to let it go and like see things for what they are and leave my ego out of it.
Well, in my opinion, you become more blessed when you're humble enough to admit that.
Yeah.
Because then you enjoy the blessings of if you tell the truth, for example, instead of practicing lies, anytime you tell the truth, you feel way better.
Yeah.
Than if you have a pattern of lying or if you know a liar.
Having a clear conscience.
People who are liars, I don't hang with them.
Yeah.
I don't want to be around them when I can't be close to them. If that's how they roll, then they have to roll with only liars.
True.
And people who have any sort of understanding that lying basically doesn't help you in any way. This is the way I put it, and this is what I teach my kid. I'm like, look, dude, lying, we all lie at different points in our life. But lying, it's not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to help you. People aren't going to trust you. People aren't going to like you. You're not going to be happy, and you can never grow close to anybody through lies.
Yeah.
However, if you are honest, if you tell the truth, and this is what I get back to, laws that God has set up.
Uh-huh.
If you are honest, if you are trustworthy, if you show yourself to have a kind of, I don't need to hide anything type of way.
Right.
People, even liars, will respect you. even if they don't like you or they don't understand your way or whatever. And when you grow close to people, it's often through honesty. You can actually have a way happier life connecting with people by being just real.
Genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're going to get hurt in that process.
Like romantic relationships, especially have to be built on trust.
100%.
Yeah. Liars can't be trusted.
I mean, can you defend that liars can be trusted?
No, of course not.
I mean, look at anywhere in your life. I mean, I'd like to hear somebody get up and say, oh, yeah, you can trust a liar. I mean, what do you think they would say?
I don't think that any like sane, rational person like can say that.
That's because we've all been hurt. If you've lived anywhere beyond 30 years, you've all been hurt by liars at some point.
Totally.
And even your lies. You've seen that your lies have hurt people.
Yeah, I guess
even if you're an honest person, it's like, oh, damn, dude. I look back and I go, shit, that sucked. I wish I didn't hurt that person. And you're kind of tormented by your conscience because you're under something that's more supreme than you, which is an understanding of what is right and wrong, which I think a creator has put above us, a universal law that we all understand and know.
Well, that kind of takes me back to another thing that all these scientists, Donald Hoffman, Thomas, oh geez, why am I blanking? All these scientists, and it all comes down to love. And with all these near-death experiences, all these people say that when they woke up and they were on the other side, if you will, that they felt this like, just like more love than they've ever felt. And I feel like on the other side, I just basically look at it as like a different reality, a different frequency, a different dimension that our consciousness is residing in when you're not in this physical reality, this 3D world. But on the other side, if everything is love, then we can't evolve like we could here on Earth, because on Earth there's different challenges. And just like I was talking about earlier, the rule set, you know, if you smack me in the face, it's going to hurt. There's consequences. And just as you're talking about morality and being a trustworthy person, like all these experiences that we have here in this physical, like help us to evolve. And I think the ultimate goal, like Thomas Campbell says, is to evolve towards love, because that way we're all compassionate to one another, and then we help and we grow and we evolve in a positive way.
So they're saying that the reason why we're here is why?
To evolve, to learn. Like this is all an experience.
And they think that who or what has put us here to learn?
God, if you will.
That's what they're saying?
Yeah.
What do you believe?
I think that's probably correct. And it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense. Because all these different religions and, you know, it ties everything together for me.
So where do you think the whole Darwinistic evolution came from?
Well, I think there is evolution. I think there's signs of it. I just think that they can live in the same world, and these mainstream scientists always want to pit evolution and creationism together. It's like they're always butting heads.
Yeah,
there
like opposing sides.
Yeah, there can be no middle ground.
Yeah.
I definitely think there is evolution, but there's also like a higher power that exist outside of this 3D physical reality. Yeah. And would you call that God? I guess. I mean, that's a huge question in itself, because...
Yeah. Because what is the nature of God, and who is God?
I'm not here to, like, tell people what God is. I'm just asking all these questions myself, trying to figure things out.
Okay, so look at it like this. You may not know who designed your shirt or who designed this table or who designed this house,
Yeah.
but you believe that there was a designer.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And you may not know who that designer was, but you can basically conclude, okay, this thing didn't just happen.
That's a great metaphor.
This
actually.
house didn't just happen. I don't know who did it or when they were born or what their personality was like, or if they could cook or not,
Yeah.
or if they liked chocolate or vanilla or anything like that. But you can conclude that it's pretty logical to assume
There was an
that
intelligence behind
somebody put some thought into cutting some wood and putting up some plaster and, you know, getting the nail gun ready, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Measuring it out. And so it's not, to me, it's like, it's not a huge leap in logic. When you look at life, it mirrors all of the design.
Yeah.
Every last thing. Like, look at your car. You can look at, somebody baked your muffins.
I mean, every single
somebody
thing that
made
you
your
see
omelet.
came from a thought.
Exactly. So I don't understand. This whole idea of like, I think, in my opinion, people don't want to acknowledge that there is somebody above them because that is too scary of a thought. And they don't know like who this person is and what they think of them, and if they have authority to, if they're morally superior than they are. And so
Yeah.
they feel more comfortable to go, well, yeah, I can accept all the miracles of life, but it was accidental. That's way more comfortable for me because then I don't have to answer or be accountable for my, anything that's contrary to the laws that are set up that maybe the lawgiver, might be upset by.
I mean, I think that happens a lot in life where people just look at something and it's like way too in depth or complex, and they're just like, nope, not gonna think about that.
That, again, back to death. That doesn't mean that it's not true, and it doesn't mean that it's not coming.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I don't know if this is a stretch because we're talking about consciousness but even things like we just had the anniversary of 9/11.
Yeah.
Like questioning what happened on that day and how those buildings fell and who actually attacked us. There's a lot of people still, over 20 years later, that still don't want to delve into that because it's either too painful or maybe they feel like they're going to be like called a tinfoil hat crazy person.
Yeah.
And it's in all aspects of life, like everything. Like even our, I'm always harping to my dad about like the financial system on this planet and like the banking system, and I'm always going on and on to that. It's like, how did that start? Where did that come from? Who controls that? And it's, oh, come on, Matthew, just,
Well,
it's,
go on.
it's like how deep do you want to go? Like how deep down the rabbit hole do you want to delve in order to understand like where this comes from and like how these things happen?
Yeah.
So I just keep going. I never stop because I'm just curious, and my curiosity's just kept me going. But I guess we were talking about that a lot of people just don't even want to go there.
Yeah, and that's okay. Because, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
I don't need everybody around me to be...
but think the way that you do.
No,
Or...
no, exactly. But it's almost like if they're happy and they're living their life, and I kind of don't want to necessarily upset the apple cart.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I do think that when there should be, I guess when it comes to like, when you look at history, there should be some warning signs because if you, it's kind of like that old saying, the only thing that evil needs to succeed is for good people to do nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
So we do need to be careful because we do need to be watchful, I would
Right.
say,
Right.
whether it's politically or whatever. But
We can't just be passive
yeah,
all the
exactly.
time.
You can't be passive. You have to be, just like in the founding father said, the price for freedom is eternal vigilance.
Mm-hmm.
That's the cost.
Yeah.
So if you want to be free, you have to be eternally vigilant. And then I think back to Nazi Germany or whatever. It's like you can't just be passive. You can't just let these guys
Rise to
run
power.
things. Otherwise, it's gonna, if you don't do anything, they're gonna rise to power, and
Then it's gonna upset your life.
yeah, and it's gonna affect everything. And so same thing with these days with the New World Order, all these elites and etc. But that's just on the, I guess, the political plane or whatever. All these problems, in my opinion, are rooted to a spiritual level.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the people that are behind the New World Order are spiritual, and that they are
or lacking of spiritual.
Yeah, that is true. But
yeah.
it's like they're the polar opposite, if you will. Like they're dark energy,
Yeah.
controlling and manipulating power. And I kind of use the analogy of or metaphor of a chessboard.
Yeah.
The world is like a giant chessboard, and there's pieces are being moved, and the ultimate goal is to win the game. So,
But why? Why do you think that they have this? What in them desires that kind of power?
I don't know 100%. I've heard authors and researchers say that they feel like they are the chosen ones, and that they know better than us, and they consider us just like the sheep or the cattle to herd.
Yeah.
So, we know best, and we're gonna herd the population. And it's like what's going on with the WF, the World Economic Forum, and wanting to create smart cities, and they don't want people driving cars, and they want everyone to buy electric cars. Why?
What's
so
their
they
problem?
can shut them down.
What are they? Is there not enough Earth? Is there not enough freedom? Is there not enough what is greed?
Well, right. One of the
What is their motivation in all of this? What is their insecurity? Where do you think all that comes from?
I don't know. Evil, maybe.
Ah.
Maybe this is really, it is a spiritual warfare, and these people are, fighting for the dark evil forces that want to manipulate dark humans and use them as pawns to achieve their ultimate goal of controlling and manipulating everyone.
So are you implying that there are dark humans and not dark humans? Is that what you're implying?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think everyone can agree with that, but I don't know if people would go to the extent that I would when I said these people, this 1% ruling class, or whatever you want to call them. People call them elites, but they're not really elites, right? They are very, very dark. And it gets into satanic stuff and ritual sacrifice and pedophilia and all this horrible dark stuff that people, their mind would blow up, and they don't even want to go there.
Well, this is our podcast. We can talk about whatever we want. So
for sure.
Just spill the beans, Matt.
Yeah, that was
Spill
the
it all.
beans. But as we were talking about earlier, how some people just don't want to think that deep about things because it's too overwhelming.
Well,
I think if
they can turn off our podcast, and we'll keep
no.
the guys that aren't and the gals that want to listen to us on here.
I'm just saying in general. I'm not really saying about our podcast, but
yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people will turn a blind eye, or it's just easier to say, no, that's crazy. I'm not going to ever look into that.
Yeah, that's another whole can of worms.
It is a whole can of worms, and that ties into censorship that goes on with
I would say it ties back to what we were talking about of the moral code. It talks about good and evil, and
it's like blasphemy, right? It's just laughing in the face of these people doing these evil, despicable things, and they know they are the complete opposite of love and light and harmony. Doing these really low frequency, low vibration, evil people.
Yeah, it sounds to me like, Matt, you believe that there is a God, and you believe in right and wrong, and you believe that there are things that we should or should not be doing,
Yeah.
and there's, you know, when you speak about, say, like evolution, I don't think it's a far stretch in my mind if there's like a plant that evolves into another plant. But I would say that there is a far stretch in my mind if you say there's some other being that can evolve into a completely different other being. You know, if it's a evolution within a species like a cat going to become a different kind of cat, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I get that. But if it's a cat to become like a giraffe, no, I don't think that that's a large
Large
leap.
there. Yeah.
Exactly. Or an ant to become a dog, you know, whatever.
True.
No, an insect to become another type of ant, okay, I can give you that. But
I mean, that's reasonable.
a tree to become a different kind of tree, okay, that makes sense. Human to become another type of human, yes.
Everything is so in harmony on this planet when you look at everything, like the insects to,
Yeah.
you know, like the bugs that eat the decaying carcasses and
Yeah. It's
just-
almost like somebody designed it that way.
yeah, everything's in harmony.
Isn't that
So,
weird? Is that a far stretch in logic that there could have been a designer to make it function in a harmonious way?
No, and I think that's the three scientists that I was talking about earlier. They all have come to the conclusion that there is like an outside thing or consciousness or awareness or God that has created this. Yeah, so what you're saying is an intelligent designer, which yes, and that has been their finding, 100%. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people might want to argue against that, but
That's fine.
I guess, you know,
Bring it on.
yeah, it's crazy fascinating stuff to me. I don't really understand why people aren't interested in questioning everything, but I don't know. Sometimes I kind of feel like the black sheep or the odd man out. I don't know. But when I'm at work or talking to my coworkers and I bring up something that I'm researching and people, when I worked in the office at my last job,
Yeah.
when I was doing graphics,
Yeah.
and I'd always be
Oh,
listening.
in Petaluma?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I'd be
remember.
listening to, you know, radio programs
That's
and
where
podcasts.
that's where me and Matt met everybody in Petaluma, California.
Where we had our talks in the office. People would walk in and like ask me for some, I don't know, design project or sign or something, and they'd listen to what I was listening to and be like, "What the hell are you listening
Yeah.
to?"
Yeah.
And I always thought that was pretty humorous.
Yeah.
But that's just the norm. I'm always listening to stuff.
Well, and to listen to somebody does not necessarily mean that you agree with them. I listen to people all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's painful to listen to people because I'm like, oh my, wow,
My ears
that
are
is,
bleeding.
I did okay, but I'm gonna listen to what you're saying. That doesn't necessarily mean I agree with you.
Yeah.
That is not the same thing to listen to somebody. But you know, I enjoy, just like most people, I enjoy listening to people who I do agree with or who have a very similar point of view to me, or who maybe have something to give to me. That, you know, a point of view that, like, you know, is satisfying, or not just like pets me, but actually feeds me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there's certain words, truths, information that are it's kind of like food. You know, there's food that you could consume that's, you know, technically consumable.
Like nutritious food
Yeah,
that like
but then
gives
there's
you.
yeah, exactly. And then there's actually healthy food that people can give to you, and words and information are, I think, are the same thing. You can feed your mind, you can feed your heart, feed your soul with good, healthy information and practices, and or you can feed your mind and your soul with junk food,
Yeah, that's good. I
or
like that.
things that aren't even that's just trash. You can
Hmm.
technically eat it, but it's not necessarily nutritious.
Yeah, and then it makes you sick and
Yeah.
see what it does to your body.
So you have soul food, you have mind food, you have body food. Yeah. And, conversations, or friendships or relationships, there's certain relationships or conversations that are just, they go nowhere. They waste your time. They don't help you. They actually harm you.
Yeah, they suck energy from you.
Yeah. So, I mean, you want to lead a healthier lifestyle. And I think these are all things that God has established in this world, in my opinion,
Yeah.
in my belief. And I don't think that this world was accidental. I think it was very intentional.
Yeah, things are too perfect for it to
Hmm.
be by accident.
Yeah.
There's no way.
I could even go further than that. I could say that each and every person has a purpose and was
I definitely
created
think
on
that.
purpose,
Yeah.
and every single person was created intentionally and reflects their creator, um, also known as created in the image of God.
Hmm.
So now,
Which goes back to the individual units of consciousness
yeah,
that we were all like created in the eyes of God.
I mean, we could get real deep here, everybody. We don't have enough time on this podcast, but maybe this will be the first of many series.
I think this is going to be a series.
Yeah, well, we can. That's
Yeah.
fine. Let's go. Dare to think. We've gone from political to philosophical and consciousness and spiritual and all that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I really was interested in doing, is kind of like trying to tie everything together, because that's what is always going on in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, well, I see how everything is connected.
Yeah.
And not only, well, how should I say it? I see literally how everything on this planet is connected.
Yeah. 100%.
I mean, and as you were just saying, like you believe that we're here for a purpose,
Uh-huh.
and I do as well. Like,
Yeah.
I believe every person that I meet, I was supposed to meet that person. Some people have like changed my life
Yeah.
significantly.
Big time.
I met one person that like made me stop drinking alcohol, and I had a pretty big problem with alcohol.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's been a big deal.
Yeah.
It's been like a year since I quit drinking booze. So
Yeah.
that's been like a huge thing in my life. And so I don't think, I think every person that you meet, yeah, you're supposed to. We're all on like this journey. We all interconnect, and yeah, it just goes back to like everything being connected.
Yeah. Yeah. So people come to different conclusions as to why that is.
Totally.
And, I'm not offended if people want to have a conversation about it or whatever. But I have my opinions, I have my convictions, I have my beliefs. And I'm totally open to listen to other people's opinions and beliefs and, see what happens. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with having a conversation.
No, I'm open to it. I'm open to have any conversation about anything with anyone.
Yeah. I think some people maybe are afraid, or they, I don't know, it might have something to do with like their upbringing, might have something to do with they're afraid of what other people in their peer group might think of them.
I mean, if you're 50, 60, 70 years old, even like 20 or 30 years old,
Yeah.
if you have to go back and now question everything that you thought before was true, now you have to question it, that's like pretty overwhelming and intimidating. And a lot of people just don't want to do it. So they just kind of plug their ears and go, la, 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 never mind. I don't want to look at that. Sometimes it's just easier not to delve into it.
Well, but I think that there's some people that are hungry.
Yeah, I'm starving.
I think that there's some people that are like, even if they don't reveal that to their peer group or to their circle or whatever, I do think that there are some people that are just like, I need to know. I need to ask these questions. I need to go there.
Mm-hmm.
I need to explore, that territory. I need to at least turn the stones over for my own
Sanity or
yeah.
knowing?
And I think that that's good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're supposed to be questioning things.
Yeah, well, and I even think that, in my belief, you should be on a search for the truth. That's part of the joy of the journey.
Yeah, definitely.
That's part of your own growth. It's like if you don't do those things, you're almost like
You're sitting there.
You're
like
living a lesser existence.
bump on a log.
Yeah, turn the stones over. At least you know you did it.
Mm-hmm.
At least you asked the question.
Yeah, like I don't know if I'll ever find the answer to the questions that I have, but
I do.
I have to ask.
Yeah.
It's worth asking.
Amen. You do.
Yeah, I don't know. So, how long have we been recording now?
Well, we can wrap it up.
Should we wrap it up?
Yeah. I mean, I stopped and peed, but,
Oh.
But
yeah.
this has been good. This has been a good, I feel like we got into a flow.
Yeah, I feel like I had verbal diarrhea and was able to kind of get
you did
everything
good.
off the top of my head that
I mean, are you happy? Do you have anything else to say?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. I feel like we went somewhere.
I think I broke the ice. That's what I wanted to do. I broke the ice.
We're going to listen back to it. We're going to figure out if it made any sense. And, maybe there'll be a new playlist here. But I think that, I enjoyed this conversation with you, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, Friday the 13th.
Yeah. What do you want to tell our people before we leave?
What do I want to tell my people before we leave?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just keep question everything. I mean, that's kind of the slogan, right? Question everything.
Yeah.
I think that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. Don't stop thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to think like we are, but just don't stop thinking.
Yeah. I don't think you can say much more than that.
Yeah. Thanks
All
for
right.
listening.
Yeah. Catch you on the next one.
Yeah.